Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our presentation. I'm here today with Natalia Saenz, President of VADSA. My name is Steve Bowen. I'm the CEO of MDS Global. We're here today to talk to you about MVNO Business Curation in Latin America. We're both available at the end of this presentation in the Q&A, so hopefully you'll find the presentation interesting and there'll be lots of questions that we can engage with you on later on. So without further ado, I shall move straight into the slides. When we look at the market situation in Latin America, we find that there's very good penetration already, and therefore growth in the region is likely to be no more than about 2% a year until 2025, where at that point we'll be nearing saturation with well over 70% subscribers connected. However, data growth in that same period is likely to be about 6 times higher, and this is predominantly down to the availability of smartphones and the media services that are being driven over them. So when we look at mobile internet usage, it's very prevalent, with almost 87% of existing users having access to mobile internet connections. And what that really means is the importance that MVNOs have to place on the digital experience and the digital interface, because that's going to define their relationship with their customers. And that's going to be key for engagement going forward. If we look at IoT growth, we think that's going to more than double to well over 1.3 connections by 2025. And interestingly, we see whilst there's growth in consumer and enterprise, it's the enterprise IoT growth which will be dominant in that time period, with perhaps 3 times as much growth as there is in the consumer segment. When we look at the MVNO share of the global market, not a lot has changed really. In 2016, the MVNO market share was about 2.6%, representing $3.5 billion. 5 years later, in 2021, it's still only really 3.1%, which represents about 4.6 billion. However, there is improving regulatory environment in the region, and that represents a strong platform for MVNO growth as governments seek to encourage innovation, entrepreneurship, and competition. But there is still a reliance on the MNOs, and it's important that those relationships are established if success is going to be forthcoming. The interface is where the profit is. What do I mean by this? Well, I think we're all familiar with some of the common brands out there today, whether it's the Googles, the Alibabas, the Airbnbs, and the Ubers. These are businesses that have worked hard to own the customer interface, but they don't necessarily own the service that's being delivered, and they certainly don't own the infrastructure required to deliver that service. So MVNOs that are able to take this concept and grasp the customer interface and own it are going to have the opportunity to generate real value. And whether they do it themselves or whether they do it by some creative partnering with established brands, that's to be seen. But nevertheless, it's the interface where we believe the profit sits, and that's where the MVNOs really need to focus their efforts. I want to talk about the landscape, the change in the opportunity landscape that's out there. And I'm going to talk about 3 specific things. Some of the trends that we see around the restructuring of the market. I want to talk about some of the frictionless technologies that are available to enable you to develop your digital interfaces and capitalize on that experience, and what some of the opportunities are in the actual market segments that exist today. So if we look at restructuring, today, as we said, MNOs dominate the telco market, owning both the networks and the services that are delivered on top of them. However, a recent study by McKinsey with Telefonica Poland saw that were a company to separate its services from its underlying network into 2 separate businesses, that generated a significant uplift in valuation for the 2 businesses compared to the original one, almost as high as 86% shareholder return. So we think that investor pressure, as well as regulatory pressure and pressure from consumers and the industry at large, will see more and more separation of the underlying networks from the services that are being delivered. Why is that important? because network companies and service companies are going to have to develop very different cultures and very different sort of organizational management styles in order to capture the markets that they're going after and the customers that they want to serve. If we take the picture that we've got on this slide and maybe focus on the purple circle, this is Bloomberg. They're a finance organization. They exist today in many sort of trading houses where traders sit at desks. They are hooked up to the stock exchange through sort of fixed line, high speed, low latency networks, but they're very much tied to their desks because that's where the infrastructure sits. But if you can imagine leveraging new technologies like 5G, where you can optimize mobile networks now to provide the same high bandwidth and low latency services, suddenly traders no longer have to be tied to their desks. They can trade pretty much wherever they want to with their mobile devices, and that they can deliver the same service to their customers as they do today sitting at their desks in these expensive buildings. So that's an example of where leveraging 5G, leveraging a niche market with a specific set of services, MVNOs can add value and therefore charge the premium for those services that they would otherwise be unable to do. And that can be extended to many different scenarios, whether it's e-gaming, e-sports, fintech, e-health. All of these are niches that have specific requirements that can be optimized leveraging 5G slices or just general optimization at large. I think companies will be able to have multiple slices serving multiple markets, adding value to multiple segments, and therefore creating value for themselves. I'd now like to hand over to Natalia Saenz, President of VADSA, and she'll talk to you through her plans with VADSA and her own MVNO Exis about how she plans to deliver these different services on top of a common infrastructure. Natalia.
Thank you so much, Steve. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalia, and I am president of VADSA. VADSA is a telecommunications company in Mexico that in 2018 decided to include mobile services to its portfolio. And the main reason we did this is we saw that the market was very abundant and that many opportunities were opening up. Mexico's mobile market is $40 billion a year market. And even though there's a high concentration with 68% of all users belonging to one company, there was a global shift happening, and that allows for new players to come in. And what we're seeing is that traditional services of voice and data are switching over to the revenues now coming from entertainment and vacations. So this is a huge opportunity for companies in Mexico, because what we're talking about is that we're not delivering standard services, but the market is looking for something else. It's looking for solutions. Some of the major opportunities that we can see are financial inclusion and mobile payments, security, e-health, and education. Mexico had a little bit of a lag in technological adoption, but this gap has been closing dramatically because of the pandemic. It is estimated that in 9 months, the adoption speed has sped up by about 3 years. So now people are more willing to participate in fully digital companies, but they're still lacking services that will provide them with that. A huge portion of the population needs companies to step up and deliver services that not only are based fully on a digital experience, but that have the tools to include these people in it. VADSA's proposition is very much going back to the point that Steve mentioned about leveraging. We don't own the network, so when we come into the mobile space, we decided to join Altan Redes, which is a shared network. It's a fully wholesale network. And what we see there is an opportunity to take that investment that they have done for that and focus fully on delivering services and products to our customers. We take this leveraging and the idea of optimizing a step further, because when we designed together with MDS the platform that we would be using to deliver our services, we thought of how that platform could be used by others. So while we can focus on the telephony services and advanced data services and the management of subscribers and real-time monetization, the other companies can focus on taking their product into the marketplace and delivering solutions. So that is the idea behind VADSA and how we see ourselves in Mexico and working together with other companies to develop solutions for the Mexican market. The first example we have of this is actually our own brand that launches this month, which is Exis. And Exis fully embodies this idea of company curation. What we're bringing is a fully digital proposition in which the customer can purchase basic services of text, data, and minutes from beginning to the monthly management without having any personal contact with anyone. So it's fully digital, but we're taking it a step further by incorporating other companies that have excelled in what they do. And in early 2021, our customers will be able to incorporate security services into their what they purchase through Exis. So ADT, who is a brand known for what they provide in the securing of a location, is bringing that into the personal space and will provide an emergency button for our customers where they can get assistance immediately for medical or violence or fire situations. And later on in the year, we'll have a financial product through Spirits that will provide our customers the facility of payments that maybe they didn't have by giving them a fully digital banking account that they can use not only to pay on our platform, but anywhere else on the internet. So the idea is that we've taken companies that are great at what they do, and we've combined them to make the customer experience easier. And it has been through this digitalization that MDS, through their platform and the architecture that we have built, that we will be able to do it. So I'd like to hand it over to Steve again so he can talk further about this ever-growing range of frictionless technologies that can support the growth of your brand too.
Thank you, Natalia. I want to talk to you about frictionless technologies. Natalia just described how her own MVNO, Exis, has created a fully digital front end to engage her customers. And I think this is the important point that we want to make, that the digital experience is going to be critical to getting and engaging and keeping customers. eSim is one example of a frictionless technology that's going to become a major part of that digital front end. eSim has its opportunities, but it also has its challenges. Why opportunity? Because obviously provisioning and securing new subscribers is going to be significantly easier. That sort of cost to change is going to dramatically reduce. Nevertheless, the challenge, therefore, is customer retention. With the ability to switch to different providers very quickly, MVNOs are going to have to work really hard to understand what it is that customers like about their business and what it is they don't like, and be able to work swiftly and nimbly to ensure that customer churn is maintained to a minimum. The eSIM is also going to offer opportunity to capture significant numbers of customers very quickly. If we take, for example, the social media environment that we now all live in, the Instagrams and the YouTubes, social media has the opportunity for influencers who have many millions of followers to work with MVNOs to capture subscribers. If you can imagine a Beyonce, for example, with 4 or 5 million subscribers, say in an Instagram, if she's got a 3D barcode like the one you can see in the picture and convinces her followers to sign up to the MVNO that she's working together with, suddenly that's a very, very quick way of reaching 4 or 5 million customers. And even if a small percentage of those customers follow Beyonce onto the network, that's still a huge number of customers to have acquired. If we then combine that with self-service, cost to serve customers suddenly drops significantly, no more expensive call centers. Obviously, the real-time experience means it certainly improves customers' perception of their MVNO, with decisions being taken and the results of those decisions made available immediately. And then AI. a terminology that's going to become more and more prevalent as we go forward. AI being used by MVNOs to spot potential churn and being able to implement activities to stop that churn, but also for MVNO partners to leverage AI to influence buying patterns. There's a plethora of frictionless technologies out there, and I think MVNOs that innovatively deploy these technologies are going to find that they'll have a competitive advantage in the market. Now, when we look at some of the opportunities, the communities that need to be served, we've got four predominantly. If we the sort of the family picture on the left-hand side, this is where today families are no longer just simple one SIM family or even two SIM families. There's potentially 10, 11, 12 SIMs in a household now, with iPads and phones and digital devices, games consoles, etc., all having SIM cards potentially embedded in them, as well as the smart appliances that are now appearing in homes. These devices need managing, and being able to manage them as a single account rather than multiple SIMs is going to provide ease of administration for the household bill owner, but also to control spend. And you can take that analogy of the sort of the household into small, medium enterprises that have 20, 30, 40 employees, each with a mobile phone and potentially other devices. Again, a lot of SIMs that need to be managed, and the administrative capability to do that simply through an appropriate digital interface to allow administrators to engage with employees remotely, for employees to engage with the business to request certain services is going to be paramount. And again, it's all about controlling of the spend and making that administration as easy as possible. If we then move to the far right of this picture, where you've got IoT enablement on a huge scale, this is where enterprises are coming together to provide a coherent service to a customer group. This is business curation. This is where individuals or organizations that have experience in bringing multiple vendors together to provide an experience to a customer. A good example of this might be a football stadium in the US, or the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2021, or any great sort of sporting event where multiple vendors are coming together to deliver experiences to a customer. Curators will bring together the appropriate networking interfaces and the MVNOs that provide those networking services, together with the retailers, the television providers, and anybody else that wants to engage with those customers. That business curation is going to be key, and MVNOs that engage with those curators will find that they'll have access to very innovative and entrepreneurial activities that they can then capitalize on. I want to talk about a couple of successes that we've been working with just recently. ID Mobile is a UK-based MVNO that launched in 2015, and they were one of the first MVNOs in the UK to launch with a completely digital front end. This was trailblazing in the UK at the time, and customers responded very positively to it. So much so that over the first 3 years of operation, ID Mobile were able to capture about 1.1 million subscribers with very little or no marketing spend whatsoever. It was simply word of mouth. Generation X really picked up on the digital experience and the ability to control their relationship with ID, and they just told all their friends, and their friends told their friends, and so the growth story began. They still operate today and are growing well, and I think that's a great example of somebody who took the digital front-end experience to heart and delivered a successful model on top of it. Another example is Veriown, operating in India and more recently in Africa. Veriown are an IoT business, and they worked with the Indian government to focus on remote villages where the only source of power was through kerosene-fueled generators. The problem with kerosene-fueled generators is that they were, very dangerous. Kerosene is an extremely flammable liquid, and the process of generating electricity resulted in quite a lot of deaths through the use of kerosene. So Verione, working together with a 4G network provider, was able to introduce narrowband IoT embedded in solar panels. And through the implementation of that technology, they've been able to deliver both power, internet access, and entertainment through quite an innovative hookup between themselves, the networks, and the villages that need these services. And this is an example where MVNOs are going to be a hell of a lot more nimbler than the typical MNOs. They're going to be able to be much more entrepreneurial. They're going to be able to respond quickly to need. And I think those businesses that do just that and work with companies like Verione on these use cases are going to find that they will be well rewarded for their efforts. I want to thank you for attending my presentation today, or our presentation today. We hope you found it interesting, and we hope that there are some interesting questions that you'd like to ask us in the coming Q&A. So thank you, and hopefully we'll see some of you in the next session. Goodbye.
Hello to everyone. I hope you are enjoying this digital symposium as much as I am enjoying it. It has been a really great day with important panelists and topics. So let's begin with our last session of the day, that is a live Q&A with all the participants we have already. Natalia, without a doubt, it's great of relevance to have you in this digital symposium. Very interesting point about using connectivity to support broader solutions, not just as an end product. Do you see as a key strategy for VADSA and a momentum in the Mexican market?
Hi, Rolando. Thank you so much for picking me. It's always nice to go first. Get the nervousness out, right? I do. I think connectivity, as I mentioned in the presentation, is a vehicle for something in the way we see the market. So our aim as a company is to take other companies or other solutions that are already existing or that are yet to be produced and help them through mobility to get in a better position with their customers. I think that selling data, minutes, and SMSs will no longer be enough. People can get that anywhere, and the competition is going to be so hard, especially here in Mexico, where the regulation has allowed so many of us to come into the market. So it'll be very, very important for companies to start distinguishing themselves by providing solutions and really addressing problems that are identified in the market.
Yeah, of course. Actually, also because we are having in Mexico a lot of enterprises that are not truly telecommunications sector. So it's really important to have enterprises like you that can help them in the process, right?
Correct. We believe that the interaction with the end customer and having that brand identity, as we just saw in the presentation a moment ago, it's such a big push for getting your product to the market. It really helps eliminate that entry point and the difficulties that can come with that. So companies can focus on what they do best. They develop a solution, and then companies like my own and other MVNOs or MVNEs that come up, they'll be there to facilitate that getting to market.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Steve, thank you for being here with us. Interesting points regarding MVNO focusing on the interface and dedicated solution for enterprises. Am I right understanding that this is an extension of what they have already been doing in supporting niche customer markets, but they should now turn their attention to enterprises and IoT?
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much for the question. It's a very interesting point. You're right. I mean, I think those MVNOs, have been supporting niche consumer markets, and that will continue. And I think 5G is going to probably even heighten that even more. But those consumer markets are going to become very crowded very quickly because it's where a lot of people are going to put their focus. The enterprise and IoT markets, as I said in the presentation, is really where the opportunity, I think, lies. the enterprises and the business curators, the people out there that are looking to bring multiple partners together to deliver a sort of a seamless value proposition to customers are going to need to be communication enabled. And I think those MVNOs that are able to form those creative partnerships with those curators and with those enterprises that have big plans for their enterprise businesses, I think the opportunity will be to create value add and enjoy the margins that value add will deliver. I think in the consumer space, it's always going to be very competitive and margins are always going to be squeezed. Even as we go into 5G, where perhaps we're going to see niche markets in the first instance command a price premium. But again, as everybody gets into that world, that premium is going to be very short-lived. And again, margins will come under pressure. So yes, I think ultimately enterprise and IoT is where the value or the sustainable value is going to lie in the next few years.
Thank you very much, Steve. Sonia, how are you? A year ago, I had the pleasure of sharing a panel with you in Bogota. It's nice to chat with you again. I fully agree with you. The market in Latin America has an important margin of growth for the MVNO industry. Now, I want to ask you, what is the approach that new operators should follow to compete in this market of more than 650 million users? What I'm trying to say is, what are the main things to consider to be a successful MVNO?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for the question. So very happy to have the opportunity to talk to you again, now in virtuality. So, well, I think that we can start with some of the lessons that Kui just shared with us. I think they were very relevant. As it was said, the brand is one of the major aspects when we are talking about consumer services. So I think it's very interesting, the opportunity to build partnerships, to build on brands that are already well known to customers, to niche, particularly where the MVNO is addressing. Other part of these things that should be considered is also the costs and to have a lean cost base, because this is part of a sector that is very competitive and the margins are very low, as we were just commenting. So it's important to not start with large costs and have a lean approach towards the business. Then one of the key aspects of our MVNO is the partnership strategy. The MNO, where they are working, is a partner, and a fluid communication and flexible agreement should be made, and also with the different partners that it's working. The MVNO in the future would be even more important in terms of partnership agreements, and to have this experience would be one of the key assets in the future world, where MVNOs are going to play a key role in terms of being the enabler of different business models and creating different solutions to different customers. So I think those are the main things. There are also other aspects regarding distribution, differentiation. If you're going to start with an existing customer base. But basically, I think it's important to focus on cost, on brand agreements.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Hello, Amish. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here. Next question is for you. It's a really important subject in the industry, not only for the MVNO industry, for the whole mobile telephony industry, 5G and IoT. What is the outlook for MVNO in Latin America with the imminent arrival of 5G in the year 2021 or 2022?
Well, it's still quite early days with regards to 5G. I think initially some operators and MVNOs might want to continue rolling out services, data services, especially as megabyte or gigabyte limited plans. So buying 5G plans or 10 gigabyte plans may continue for a while, but not for long, I think, because what we're seeing in other markets where 5G is being rolled out today is that operators are starting to sell service based on speed or quality of service rather than based on a set amount of data. So providing unlimited plans and customers paying a premium for higher bandwidth versus lower bandwidth. So as 5G becomes more prevalent, you would expect to see the network owners, the network operators, offering services in that way, and the MVNOs are going to have to adapt to compete with that. So the days of the 5 gig or the 10 big gig bundle are numbered in some regards. And that's one key takeaway. Another is that because of the capabilities that 5G provides, there are going to be new services coming to market. So examples of partnerships like the partnerships Natalia spoke about in her presentation are going to become more prevalent, and new charging models will have to be supported in order to manage those partnerships. And the commercial agreements between the players in any service that's brought to market and co-created between the MVNO and business partners. Lastly, I would say the 5G network allows for completely different charging scenarios that we haven't seen before. So the 5G network slice management function can, for example, generate charging events based on events at the network slice level, as opposed to individual subscriber events. So those will need to be catered for as well as network slicing and services based on network slicing are brought out to market. So a number of changes and pretty fundamental ones too.
Thank you, Hamish. Very important what you share with us. Let me make a real quick pause just to remember to the audience that you can write your questions to the panelists and we can answer to you. This is Q&A is for you. But, well, I'm going to continue. Natalia,
Rolando?
Yeah.
Rolando, it's Steve. Could I just quickly add something to Hamish's answer, which I think is going to be quite important for those looking at 5G?
Yes, of course, feel free.
I mean, I think the key to this, as Hamish outlined, 5G is going to sort of change the landscape a bit in terms of how consumers are going to purchase their services from the MVNO. And it's going to be critical that the MVNOs are negotiating flexible wholesale deals with their MNOs. At the moment, the market is evolving, and I think it's so important that the MVNOs have a level playing field with the MNOs in terms of access to services and access to flexibility. So it's more a sort of an observation and a suggestion that the MVNOs are able to need to negotiate the most flexible deals they can, because it's evolving very quickly, and they need to make sure that their wholesale deals are continuing to be fit for purpose as the market evolves.
Yeah, of course, totally agree with you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for sharing that with us. Natalia, let me go back with you. What will success look like for MVNO using your platform? What I'm saying is, what are the advantages that an MVNO will have by joining you?
I think that a key element that has been echoed through the conference so far is this idea of partnership. Companies that join together can create synergy that leads them to success. I believe that VADSA brings that to the table in the market, because the architecture that we've designed together with MDS and some of our other partners will also enable us to bring that into somebody's vision. And so something that you have an idea that you want to take to the market, you don't have to be an expert in technology. You don't have to create a team that can lead you there. Our team has already been developed. We're there to support you. And the flexibility, I can't stress this enough, the way we have it set up, it really functions so easily, so that that idea that you have, we take what's existing with us and the roadblocks that we've overcome along the way to set ourselves up with the network so that we can then make that a reality for an MVNO. This allows people to concentrate on what they're doing and what they do best and really excel at it. And so if someone's really good at security services, then they can continue to focus on that and allow us to take that technological element and take it further. So what we're seeing as our main advantage, or what we bring to our customers, is the ability to be incredible at what you are and let somebody else take care of an element that takes you further in the marketplace. And that would be the main strategic reason to join us instead of going on your own.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Steve, I'm gonna go back with you again. I hope you can help me with this question. So, do you think monetization will get more or less complex as the MVNO market evolves to support of those innovation use cases you mentioned?
Yeah, thanks, Rolando. I think complex is certainly something that we have to consider. There's a lot of use cases out there that we just don't know that they exist yet. I mean, we're still trying to get our heads around, you know, what does 5G mean today? 5G today is just another G, correct? It's getting your data and your minutes in exactly the same way, but maybe a little bit faster. As companies and enterprises become more innovative and they start to understand the more complex use cases, then absolutely, I think a certain amount of complexity is going to be introduced. But I think what is important is that regardless of the complexity, what we need to have is the ability to bill. Ultimately, monetization is about being able to bill your customers. And therefore, your billing system, your BSS, needs to be extremely flexible and agile so that as the use cases evolve, as the products become clear, that they are very quickly catalogued appropriately and that the billing dimensions are understood and that your billing system is able to accommodate those. And as quickly as you're able to develop the product, so you're able to bill your customers. Ultimately, if you can't bill, you can't monetize. And so I think that's probably the more important aspect of understanding how to monetize. I think complexity will always be there. And as people come up with these weird and wonderful use cases, and you see them all the time, I think it's actually more about being able to translate that then into a bill that you can give somebody so they can pay you.
Let me quote you again, just to be clear to the audience. If you can't build, you can monetize. That's really important.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Hi, Rolando, it's Hamish here. Can I continue along Steve's line of thinking there? I know that a good number of MVNOs in the Latin American region depend on the network operator for the operation of the MVNE platform. And having a dependence on the network operator as you bring new services to market or you build new services in partnership with business partners is going to be hindered by not having your own BSS charging and billing infrastructure to be able to manage those new services and the commercial relationships you have with your customers and with your partners. So I think it's fundamental that MVNOs who want to play in that space start thinking, if they don't have already, I know Natalie mentioned in her presentation about the infrastructure that VADSA have set up to go to market, that other operators need to think along those lines with regards to addressing the market and be able to manage the monetization opportunities that there are with the new services.
Totally agree with you, Hamish. Actually, I was going to ask you, what is the route you think the new MVNOs or those enterprises that are in a way trying to be in this industry, what do you think is the route that they need to follow because of the complexity of the Latin American market in terms of competition? What do you think they have to do?
I think it's kind of almost related to the comment I just made, is that they will need to have a very flexible set of capabilities around the management of their customers and the services, being able to create services with partners, being able to set up new offerings and ways to price those to the end customers, as well as to manage those with their partners, to lean on a VADSA as a platform, for example, to take services to market in Mexico. Providers like that are able to support new MVNOs coming to market with, flexible offerings and the ability to set up new services very quickly, independently of the underlying network that they're running on. So I would say that flexibility in operation and having the right partners in place is absolutely key.
Thank you very much, Hamish. I totally agree with you. Sonia, a conjunctural issue which I cannot stop asking, because the whole industry are interested, the whole audience, are interested in knowing how the MVNO industry is living this situation. So what are the main lessons learned for MVNOs during the pandemic?
Yes, thank you. Well, I think that the presentation that Hui just gave us is a great lesson of some of the learnings of the pandemic. Really, the pandemic shows the importance to be connected. This gave a new dimension of how connectivity is a key priority to every person, and that there are several ways in which a person needs to be connected, and probably there are some niches that are not correctly addressed. During this pandemic, we saw how digitalization was also one of the key areas that has been adopted very quickly. And Hui showed how their digitalization inboard process was a differentiator in the market. So I think that continue showing this way of working with solutions to consumers, easy to go, have a quick response to the different challenges that we have ahead, are part of the lessons learned, and every crisis has an opportunity. So I think that from this process we see several MVNOs becoming more strong after the crisis, and probably we'll see some that will not be able to continue because they were not prepared to be fully digitalized as is required right now. So this is the way to continue.
Actually, in Mexican market, the ones that are having a better growth are the MVNOs. So like you said, every crisis has an opportunity. Thank you very much. Let me give each of you 1 or 2 minutes for sharing a closing argument, a closing line, a closing advice for the audience that are listening to you about the MVNO market in Latin America. If you are okay, we can go in first with Natalia, then Steve, Hamish, and in last but not less important, Sonia. So are you okay with that?
Absolutely. Thank you. My closing argument would be the following. The market is ready for new business models. There are 40 million Mexicans that are waiting for connectivity, and thousands of small businesses that are looking for solutions. So it really comes down to the business environment and the players in the market to come up with these solutions and find ways to get to these people, and not just provide them with an opportunity to participate in this digital world, but also to bring them services that solve problems for their communities and what they're living day to day. So if you can identify a problem, there's probably a solution that involves mobility or connectivity. And that's where I think all of us here have an opportunity and a great market ready for us in Latin America. I think now is the time to build these new business models and to find these alliances between each other to take that to the market and really make an impact in our environments.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Steve, please.
Yes, I think, ultimately, I think if the MVNO needs to focus on, who their customer is and who their audience is, I think for me, if the MVNO focuses on what they know best, what their audience, what their customer is, let the MVNE, let the VADSAs of the world take away the complexity of how the back end of that process works. They can provide the operational support, whether it be through flexible billing or good network connectivity and whatever other network services are provided, and let the MVNO focus purely and simply on who their customer is, who their audience is, how they deliver great service to their customers, and how they can monetize that relationship as best they can. That would be my closing remark.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. Hamish, please go ahead.
Okay, point that Natalia and Steve made in their presentation, but focusing on the user interface. I think if you're able to give your customers a fantastic digital experience that makes them a real fan of your brand, then owning a physical network is less important. The point that we made earlier about Uber don't own the cars that they resell the service of, and Airbnb don't own the properties that they resell, but they have a terrific user interface, really easy to use, engaging, makes it super easy for their customers to access the services that they resell. So if you can offer a market-leading digital experience, and that depends on having the right infrastructure in place, just your customer management systems and your service management systems, depending on an MVNE like VADSA to provide those, or having your own, the likes of a VADSA can take away the complexity for many of the MVNOs coming to market. The more ambitious MVNOs may wish to build their own infrastructure to be able to support that digital experience, but it's absolutely key because it gives the MVNOs a fantastic opportunity to attract customers to your service, even though you don't own the underlying network. So I think Natalia showed the Exis app during her presentation, and we saw in the Kui Mobile presentation actually an interesting digital first sign-up approach. I think the focusing on that digital interface to your customers is absolutely key to continued success in the market.
Thank you very much, Hamish. Sonia, please. Your turn.
Yes, well, as we were saying, 2020 has been a challenge for all of us. And I think it's an inflection point also for services. We're seeing a new way of building networks. We're towards a more consolidated network environment. So services will be the main differentiation. 5G with all the possibilities of network slicing, what's coming with eSIM, the possibilities of IoT. So this brings a lot of different opportunities. Those MVNOs that decide to start earlier would have the chance to be the first in the market and having all the learning curve. Not an easy way to go, but probably the ones that would succeed in the future and would bet more to have the possibility to bring a difference to Latin America.
Thank you very much. It has been important to listen to you, for me, for the audience, for the MVNO industry. I hope next year we can see each other and continue sharing experiences that encourage the growth and development of the MVNO industry. Please, to the audience, remember that this digital symposium continues tomorrow, so don't forget to log in tomorrow, please. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you so much, Orlando.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rolando.